Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yeah.
you, Carmen.
Great. Don't you get sick of people saying, can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you unmute? Anyway, if we have a quorum, I'm going to go ahead and ask people, let's do a call to order. Good morning, everyone. Carmen Ramirez here, your chair. Thank you for being here this morning. We don't meet that often, but when we do, it's very important that we all get here. So let's have a roll call, Sandra.
Supervisor Bennett,
Here.
Commissioner Kildee, Commissioner McCall, Commissioner Enegren, Commissioner Vice Chair Francina,
I'm here.
Commissioner Gama, I see him.
Okay,
Stephen, you're muted.
I haven't heard anybody say yes except Souza.
Commissioner Kavanaugh
Here.
and Commissioner Friedman.
Here.
Okay, great. So, all right. Commissioner
Carmen,
Friedman,
Carmen,
yes,
Steve Bennett said here. Right. Okay.
yes. Commissioner Friedman, I know you're not in Ventura. I can tell.
How do you know?
It looks like you're in the Bahamas.
Oh, maybe. I'm not.
Doesn't matter because the governor gives you a pass, so it's cool.
I can't confirm nor deny.
Okay, well, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I understand we have a flag that's going to be posted. And I will ask Commissioner Friedman to lead us in the pledge. Please stand, everyone.
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, very good. We're going to take a look at the agenda and see if we need to review or reorder anything there. Any comments from the commissioners about that? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone.
I would put
Opposing
for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So Commissioner Friedman moves and Commissioner Francina seconds. Do we need a roll call?
We do not.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes are approved. This next thing is presentations, proclamations, commendations. Sandra, do we have anything?
We do not.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll go on to public comments. I understand we have a couple of speakers who have let the commission know that they want to speak. And who is our, Mr. Friedman, you're going to let, not Mr. Friedman, Randy. Same name?
Yes.
Same last name? You guys related?
Not that we know of.
We're all related. Okay. By the way, if you check it out, we're all related. Thank you. So go ahead, Randy, and let the first speaker in and say the name, please.
Sandra, who do we have first on your list?
We have Catherine Sherman first.
Ms. Sherman, you have 3 minutes. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Catherine, you are in. It looks like her audio is connecting.
Okay, we'll be patient.
There you go.
Ms. Sherman? I believe you're in the meeting. Please go ahead. I'm not hearing her. Is anybody else hearing her?
No.
Catherine, are you there? Can you hear us?
Well, let's, while we figure that out, let's go to our second speaker, which is,
Susan
Miss-
Santa Maria.
okay, Miss Santa Maria, is she available?
I am now bringing her from the waiting room into the call.
Thank you.
And we also have somebody in the waiting room with the phone number 388-5300. Is that a county line? Do we know? Sure. Okay.
So,
It looks like
and-
Susan. Susan, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am.
great.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Okay, I'm on here as regards to the euthanasia policy for the shelter. I was always under the understanding the dog had to attack a human 3 times before the dog was put down. And it says in your rules and regulations and your policies that you provide every avenue for that animal so it is not euthanized. And that was not done. In the case of Diamond, I think we need to get a professional in there when something like this happens to evaluate the dog. We need an extra set of eyes. We also need at our disposal, since we are a county office, that we don't have access to the district attorney's office and their investigations, that they can go out if somebody threatens a lawsuit to go out, investigate exactly what happened and to determine another avenue we can take. I personally had a police dog in my home. He was given his 4th shot through a friend of mine who was a professional trainer. He had gone through 3 police officers causing major damage. He was still given a 4th shot. And I think our dogs at the shelter deserve the same. And I think that we need to get this done. Our foster system, even though she's doing a good job, I think maybe the foster parents need to have extra classes to really understand exactly what they're getting into. And the same goes for Brady, who was euthanized months ago, for protecting himself, because apparently the man that he went after had gone in there when he wasn't supposed to, and he had threatened the dog before with a hammer. The dog was being a dog. So I appreciate you listening to me, and I just hope that some changes come around, and maybe in future we can use the district attorney's office and their investigators. Since we're all county-run agencies, there's no reason not to.
Thank you very much. You know, we, in public comment, we can't directly respond to you, but we're listening. Our next speaker.
May I ask a question, Carmen? May I-
Very, very carefully.
Yes, I just want to have the name of the previous speaker.
Catherine Sherman, is that correct?
Susan.
That is correct.
What's her last name?
Susan Santa Maria.
Oh, that was Susan. Okay.
That was Susan Santa Maria. I
I'm sorry.
believe Catherine had some audio issues. It sounded like. Randy, is that correct?
That's correct. I no longer see her in the waiting room, unfortunately. Did you have her comment written?
I do have her written comment. Chair Ramirez, is it okay with you if I read it
Please
into the
do.
record?
Please do. Let's give it also 3 minutes.
This is a public comment from Catherine Sherman. I have had 2 different people tell me they have made appointments to adopt a specific dog at the shelter and waited 3 weeks to a month for their appointment. They both received a phone call with VCAS canceling their appointments due to an outside rescue group pulling that particular dog and selling these dogs for a marginal profit. This does not seem fair to the public. Why is the shelter doing this? Thank you, Catherine Sherman.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll all be asking questions later out of the meeting, which is the appropriate thing to do. Thank you very much, everyone. And now we're going to go on to the business items. First is, wait a minute, I'm looking at the minutes. Sorry, not correct. This COVID-19 service update from our staff. Director Rose and Deputy Director Donna Gillespie. Go ahead, please.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us via Zoom. Just a little preamble for this. Please bear with us. This is our first time doing a meeting like this on Zoom. So if we have some little glitches, we're working through them. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can use the document that I'd sent you, the timeline of service impact. What we wanted to do is just give you an overview of the activities that we've taken since the initiation of the COVID situation. So let me share my screen and we'll make sure that you all have that first before I keep going. Can you all see that page that has the logo and the timeline? Is that now up on?
There it is. Yes.
Oh, great. So as everyone is so well aware, COVID came in fast and furious in the middle of March. And we had lots of protocols and processes that we implemented. And I'm not going to read each of these line by line. You've received this in your packet, but it will give you an idea of the timelines of when things really started to impact us. It was March 16th when we started taking our very first activities related to COVID and safety precautions. At that time, we started to limit some of our services, primarily in field, but only to what I would consider to be the non-priority kinds of activities, nuisance hearings and responding to barking complaints, outreach activities. We continued and have continued since day one to handle all of our general service calls and priority calls. So none of those things were impacted. We suspended in-person licensing at the shelter, which really has proven, I think, to be very beneficial to the public. We still have online and drop boxes and US mail. It was at that time that we did stop having people come to our shelter to just be able to roam around in what we call casual visits. And we moved towards an appointment-based system for adoptions, as well as other services, stray intakes, return to owners. I want to be very clear on the adoption piece, on the appointment piece, that we never stopped allowing people to come to us with a stray or to reclaim, even if they did not have an appointment, but we were encouraging people to use that system because it was easier for us to help manage and provide better service to them and provide social distancing. However, people are and had been required at that time to go through an appointment base for adoption. And you can see the list of other things we started to suspend on that day. And so we had a lot to do. We did suspend our community TNR for trap, neuter, return surgeries for our community cats. And that really was very specifically related to PPE preservation. And matter of fact, we gave quite a bit of our materials over to the healthcare system at the very beginning, gowns, gloves, swabs, things like that. Rabies clinics at that time we suspended, and bringing on new volunteers at that point. The following day, we started working, through notification from the county and our central HR that we needed to start identifying our non-essential staff and sent them home, effective as of the 18th, and again, all due to social distancing protocols. We also suspended our in-store adoptions at our Petcos and PetSmarts and our local pet shops. And we started to limit our volunteers to only those people who didn't have or weren't considered to be in a high-risk category per Dr. Levin's orders. And as you're going to see as we go through this, every day, as you all know, just became another day of making changes to what we thought was a process.
Right.
3 days later, we moved towards an opportunity to implement an extension for licenses, temporary licenses, because we recognize people were now going to have some financial hardships and we didn't want people being negatively impacted for that. We also at that time closed the Simi shelter, which at this moment does still remain closed to the public. We moved any animals that we had there to the Camarillo facility, and all staff came over to Camarillo. And some of our staff started going to 410 schedules, and we were playing with how to do that. And we started really moving our staff into telework opportunities as you will see, myself, Donna, Phil, many of us are still working from home in a telework capacity. We unfortunately are, I mean, at the time, I want to say unfortunately, Dr. Levin required that we stop doing adoptions at all at our facility. He was very concerned about people coming out and really wanted us to make sure that people were staying at home as per his orders, which we did, and we discontinued adoption services. We retained all of the others as far as stray animals coming in, return to owners, and our field services. And of course, in hindsight, I'm very grateful that Dr. Levin took such a strong position based on our numbers here in Ventura County. It obviously was a very prudent thing for us to have done. But because of that, we also started to implement a telemedicine protocol for animals who are in foster care. So foster care still had access to our veterinarians and vet staff, although we were not having them come onto our property. And at that time, we suspended all volunteers from the shelter. Again, wanting people to stay at home, and suspended any owner requested euthanasia unless it truly was an emergency. And that was on the 29th. A few days later, we then decided we also were going to suspend all spay-neuter surgeries for our animals in our shelter at that time, which, to be very honest, was not an incredible hardship because we were also not adopting animals at that time. So it didn't mean that we were going to be putting animals into the community that weren't spayed and neutered. But again, it was all an effort to preserve our PPE. And we started a stronger messaging campaign of helping people not just bring cats to the shelter, hoping to keep healthy cats in the community and limit the kittens that were coming in at the time. Again, we actually, we had 27 of our staff who were deployed out to either disaster service workers or non-essential. So we were limited with staff at the same time. And we still had animals in foster care and needed to get those animals moving along. And so we started a delivery process where our staff were actually taking animals to foster homes because we were not allowing foster families to come to our shelter. We implemented a much more robust pet pantry program for people who were impacted. And we worked very, very closely with AAA here in the county area agency on aging to help provide food to people who were now impacted. We also received 2 grants, which I'll talk a little bit later in the director's report, to help with that pet pantry program. By April 28th, we're now a little 5 weeks into it. We implemented a vet appointment. We were starting to recognize that we had animals who needed to come in, so we implemented an appointment base for our foster families to be able to bring their animals in, and not just by telemedicine. And then by May 1, we were able to start to reinstate some of our foster care, being able to come back for curbside assistance. And we reinstated spay-neuter for our shelter animals with the plan that we would be able to reinstate our adoptions by appointment, which happened on May 2nd. So we actually were shut down for adoptions for about a 30-day period. May 2nd, we re-implemented our adoption by appointment model, and that is still continuing. Things as far as COVID activity, I mean, just flip back and forth, but May 2nd, you can see, was one of the big changes. And then we really didn't have any significant changes process-wise until June 10th, when we started to bring back some of our non-essential staff, started to return to our facility. On the 15th, the county issued permission to reopen county facilities, which, to be very honest, for us was not a significant change. We still were doing services by appointment, which is what the county's position was, but people were allowed to come back to the facility on an appointment basis. And we started to allow our volunteers to come back on a limited basis and on scheduled activities. We then implemented an on-site adoption process in June 23rd for cats, where we now are allowing people to come to the facility on a daily basis, except on Mondays when we're closed between 2 and 4. And they can have an appointment and come on to see the cats come onto our property. So dog adoptions are still happening by telephone with a pre-counseling situation. And then if that's a good match, the person comes in and adopts the dog. For cats, they can actually come to the facility, meet some cats, and then adopt that same day. On July 2nd, we went back to holding a rabies clinic, and we did it at the shelter and held a curbside rabies clinic, which was really very effective. And then just a couple weeks ago, July 27th, we reinstated our TNR services. So we're back to doing surgeries for community cats at the shelter 4 days a week, 4 slots a day. So in summary, we're fairly close to where we used to be with our services, with the exception people are still not able to come to the facility for casual visits and just walk around our property. We don't have the capacity to manage that in a way that would be prudent and socially distancing acceptable. And our adoptions we still are doing the pre-adoption counseling by phone for dogs, which has proven to be very, very effective for people. But with the exception of that, we're pretty much back to full speed for services. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have some additional information that you may have seen in the director's report, but I'm scrolling back to the top. So if anyone has any questions on any of these, I'm happy to answer them for you.
So commissioners, please let me know you want, just go ahead and chime in and we'll try to organize that.
Hello, this is Commissioner Gum. I have one question. Have you noticed an increase in stray animals since COVID started?
No, we actually haven't. The good news in many ways is that the community stepped up and understood that we had limited services, we had limited staff, and also from a social distancing perspective. We spent a lot of time messaging, if you find a stray animal first, try and find that owner. And that's the most important piece, and try and get that animal back, returned to its family without ever having to come to the shelter. And I think that that's been a very strong piece. I think the second piece with is many people being at home, we are finding less animals are running loose during the day, escaping through a fence or breaking, getting out accidentally because people are home. So no, we've actually seen a decrease, which is a good thing.
Other questions from the commissioners? Anybody? I have a couple of questions, Director Rose. One is, what was the status of your personal protective equipment?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
You said that, I'm just trying to see if you had a problem getting that equipment and getting enough.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. No, I'm happy to report we did not. And again, as a matter of fact, in the very beginning, we were able to give quite a bit of our PPE over to the healthcare agency to assist with the emergency rooms and the influx that was happening at that time. We did, in my opinion, do a really good job of preserving what we needed for our services, but we did not have a problem with obtaining it. And one thing that we struggled with a bit, which I think everyone was struggling, were things like hand sanitizers for our staff, and being able to have those kinds of disinfectants for cleaning just common areas and countertops and things like that. But general PPE such as gowns, gloves, masks, we actually we did not have a problem, but we were very, very cognizant of what we had and how we were utilizing it.
What was the turnout at the rabies clinic, and how did you advertise that?
We promoted it as we always do on our website as well as our social media. And we had a pretty good turnout. It was an interesting way to do it. We literally did do curbside. People stayed in their cars. We had them line up outside the facility in their cars, and then they came into the front parking lot. We would take the animal out of the car. They stayed in the car. We brought them over, provided the rabies vaccine, and then gave the animal back to them. If I remember correctly, and Donna, you might be able to chime in, I think it was a fairly small number as far as the turnouts compared to some other clinics. I think we had about 18 or 20 people come through, but it was really great. And those people who came seemed to feel that they felt safe and our staff felt safe. We will be holding another clinic in September, early part of September.
Great. I think my dogs would like it not to have to go inside.
Yes.
that little room. Okay, and just tell me how your staff is doing. Everybody healthy?
Yes, thank you for asking. We have been very fortunate. We've had a few folks have to go out under an exposure concern that they had been exposed, but we have not, and I want to knock on wood somewhere, we've not had a single staff member sick. No one has been positive. No one has been sick. We've been very, very fortunate. Our staff have taken this very seriously while at work. And I think people have done a really good job of following protocol. So we've been very fortunate, at least up to this date. And our staff are doing well. So thank you for asking.
Do other commissioners have questions?
Carmen, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner Kildee, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I apologize for a little bit my tardiness here. Is there any updated information on when we can get back up to running at full speed, or is it like all of the rest of us are doing, just sort of waiting for the numbers?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Kildee, thank you for the question. I think that that's exactly correct. We have taken the position from day one that this really is a day-by-day activity. Right now, and what's not on this timeline, of course, is that everyone that comes onto our property, staff, vendors, and any of the folks who are coming for cat adoptions, we're temperature checking, we're doing all of that. Part of our difficulty is it's a pretty big facility, and people do like to come and roam, and it's a staffing resource position. Do we have the ability to manage that adequately? And two, from a social distancing perspective. So I think at this moment, we're kind of in a holding tight model. I know that people are missing the opportunity to come visit our animals, and I appreciate that because I'm missing the opportunity to come visit our animals. I'm working from home. I don't get to see them the same way. However, for the public, for the most part, they still have full access to see the animals that are available on our website or on our app. And they're having the ability to adopt. And again, if it's kittens, they can literally come to our facility and they can come view our cats. We do limit it to the number of cats we have available that day for adoption. So I'll give the example. If we have 10 cats that day who we know are available, then we limit the number of appointments to 10 or 12. One thing I didn't say that I will share is one of the things that we put in, which is really very cool, is we put in what we call a wait list app, very similar to when you go to a restaurant and you walk up and you don't have a reservation. They say, great, give us your phone number, we'll text you. We're doing the same thing. So when people make an appointment and they come to the facility, we're able to give them a place in line and they can wait in their car and we'll text them when it's their turn to come in. So I think for the most part, it's moving very well. We're cautious about having people come on without having a better understanding of the numbers here in Ventura. We want to see those numbers come down.
Other questions from commissioners?
Carmen, this is Dee Dee Kavanaugh. May I ask a question?
Dee Dee, please, go ahead.
Thank you. Jackie, do we have any time frame of when we would reopen the Simi Valley location?
No, it's a great question. It's very similar, and I also have to acknowledge, if you remember, under county protocols at this moment, the county buildings are only available for any service by appointment. So we're following the county regulations at this moment. The Simi shelter, we talk about, when we can get that open. We'd like to get it open as soon as we can. We are probably going to use the Simi shelter for one of our rabies clinics in the very near future. We do have some staff who will work out of that facility at times, so we're utilizing it. But as far as, again, bringing it back to full capacity, it's a staffing resource issue. Right now, we have several of our staff out on leave for various reasons because of childcare or other medical issues for family members who may be related to COVID, as well as we have several of our staff who are also deployed as disaster service workers doing contact tracing and other activities. So we still have a limited staffing basis. And so in order to open that facility, we're going to need to be able to get back to full staffing.
That makes sense. Thank you very much. And
Sure.
just, you mentioned a possible rabies clinic in Simi Valley. that will be advertised ahead of time, correct?
It will be, yes. And I want to make sure I'm not misspeaking. I know we just had a conversation, and I believe that's what we were talking about, is possibly holding it at Simi the next time.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Other questions from the commissioners? Do we have any public comment at this point? Any of our animal safety officers have a question? I see Officer McAlpin there. I don't hear anything. I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask questions. So unless somebody just quickly speaks up, we'll move on to director's report. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm gonna just step away and refresh my coffee, but I'm here.
And
Go ahead, I can hear you.
bear with me. I just accidentally closed out the director's report document. So hard to I'm having trouble managing all these screens. So bear with me 1 second while I just pulled that up. There we go. All right, can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for holding. Okay, let me get to the director's report. I thought I had this all perfectly done. All right, there we go. One of the things that we really wanted to do was try and share with you some of the things that have been happening, because I know that we did not meet the last time. And we have had quite a bit of activity happening. Even despite COVID, we've made quite a lot of strides and improvements in certain areas. One of them is just to give you all an update on the veterinarian reporting process. We did on April 21st have that approved by our Board of Supervisors. And that ordinance amendment was approved, requiring the private veterinarians to report to us the rabies vaccinations. We have been working with the veterinarians here in unincorporated Ventura to get that program up and running. At the same time, the city of Simi Valley adopted this change by reference, and the city of Fillmore and the city of Camarillo have presented to their city councils for that. Since this report was written, we have gotten word that the city of Fillmore has moved forward with that, so we're starting to work with the veterinarians there. And I know that the city of Camarillo has had their first reading, and there will be a second reading, I believe, at the end of this month to bring it back for them to adopt that language. So we're moving forward. We have gotten several of the veterinarians already to start submitting to us, and so we're really very pleased with the progress. I apologize. One other glitch happening here. Okay. All right. I will open that up. Okay. Very technical, hard stuff to do and talk at the same time. So we're really pleased with how this is moving forward, and we're hoping that other cities will work with us to adopt this in their jurisdiction. Any questions? And we'll do questions as we go through each one of these in case there's anything. Everyone, any questions regarding the vet reporting?
I don't hear any.
Okay. A second thing that's really very exciting for us, and we hope to have this launched, our target date is September 1st, is we will be utilizing a new product for our license tags. The new product is a product called Pet Hub license tags. They are a smart tag. On the front of the tag, we'll have our logo so people will know that it's a Ventura County animal. And on the back of that, somebody's asking if I skipped items B and C. I don't know what that means. On the back of that will be a QR code. And so if someone finds a lost dog or cat, if they're wearing one, if they find that, they can take their phone, run that QR code with the scan, that will automatically provide them information with who that owner is by a phone contact. And they can contact that person right away and say, Fantastic. Hey, I'm standing on corner X, I have your dog. And they go, oh my God, that's fantastic. They can meet and take that animal and never have to bring that animal to the shelter. It's a really wonderful product. It has lots of other functions, if you will. There's 24-hour access to get information. There's notifications to the owner. It's upgrading to technology and having a tag that really is something that's an interactive tag in the moment. It's all dependent on how much information that owner puts into the system. So for example, for me, I might put my name, my first name, and my phone number, and that's it. I am not going to put my address in. I don't want people coming knocking on my door, but they could surely give me a call. So this truly is a value-added piece. We're super excited about it. There's no additional charge. It will be the same charge for everyone. It's part of our licensing program. And we will be able to swap out, if you will, or people will be able to get one of these tags, even if it's not time for their renewal, for a charge of $10, which is no different than if they had lost their tag and needed a replacement tag. So people will be able to upgrade to this service immediately, or they can wait until their license comes up for renewal, and then they will just be given one of these tags. The old metal tags, and I say old, we're still giving them out until the end of this month, but those will no longer be utilized, and all tags from September 1st will move forward with a smart tag. So we're really, really excited about this. And we see this as truly an unbelievably enhanced service for our community. With, again, the goal of getting animals home more quickly and not even having to come to the shelter. So yeah, there you go. Super excited about this.
Great. Questions from the commissioners? Any members of the public have, is there a public comment?
We have 3 people in the waiting room. Are we, did you want us to just kind of let them in right now, and you can, just say, hey, you're up for public comment? Do you just want to open it up?
Yeah, I just want us to always be careful that we're making sure that we're letting legitimate visitors and not saboteurs.
Right. The 3 people, I recognize these 3. So with your permission,
yeah.
I'll let them in.
Let's do that. Thank you. And I'll ask if they have public comment.
Okay.
They may be just listening in.
I have Sharon, Susan, and Jean Farley are now in the Zoom meeting.
So I'll ask if we have anyone who wants to make a public comment on the director's report from our members of the public who are attending.
I believe their audio is still connecting.
Okay, I'll say that again. So Director Rose, you went over the ordinance, and then you went over the Pet Hub license tags, which is fabulous. And then the next item after public comment, we'll go to emergency.
Yes, again, actually, we're very excited about this too. We were able to benefit from the SoCal Edison settlement agreement that the county had, resulting from the Thomas fire. And as a result of that, we have been provided funding to do 2 things that are going to be enhancements for emergency preparedness for the shelter. One is that we are in the process of procuring a backup generator for the Simi Valley shelter. Right now, we have a backup generator for Camarillo, but we have not had one at Simi Valley. And so, in the event of a disaster, we will now have the ability to keep that facility open if it's an appropriate thing to do, obviously based on where that event might be. We do know that Simi Valley tends to have a higher probability of possibly having a fire incident than Camarillo. Although, just an aside, we had a little fire yesterday right next to our Camarillo shelter at the BMX track. So you never know what's going to happen. But we are getting a backup generator for the Simi Valley shelter, as well as we are getting a 5,000-gallon water tank that will be at the Camarillo shelter again, in order to hold water to accommodate in the event of a disaster for the animals under our care. So we're really
Oh,
excited.
Randy?
Who's speaking?
Randy, are you there? This is Susan Santa Maria.
Would you
And-
like to make a comment, Ms.
Yes,
Santa Maria?
please.
All right,
Yes.
you'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm making a comment. I think we should open the Simi shelter as soon as possible to get some of the high stress dogs out of Camarillo. It's also affecting the communities of Moore Park, Thousand Oaks, and Simi Valley. I've heard this from numerous people, whether they work for the county or they're just people in the county. And they really need to have the shelter open. And I think maybe if we get the high stress dogs out.
Do you have your audio on as
Yeah.
well?
I really
Any
think
feedback?
this is possible, and I really think this professional trainer that we need to have does not have to be an employee of the county. We can hire a person on just as need basis to get these dogs under control, get them into a safe home, safe environment, and we can stop what's happening. Because 4 dogs euthanized in 4 days is just unbelievable in my book. And just 2 of them that I know of were just being dogs. And we're all in this for the same reason, is to save these animals. And I understand we can't save them all. I understand that totally. But the ones we can save, we need to save. It's up to us to do it. They're in our care. And we need to take every avenue available to us to do this. Not just euthanize. Just because somebody says, I'm going to sue. We need to take every avenue available and let the public know. We're not going to stand by and watch this happen. We're not. That we care for our animals and we take this seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much. And I want to say, I'm not keeping track of time. So Randy, would you do that for us?
Sure thing.
Okay. Next, do you have another speaker? Anyone else who'd like to make a public comment? Not hearing anything, so.
There were a couple of additional members of the public that came in. Sharon Clark, are you there? It looks like your audio is connecting. She may be having technical difficulties.
Okay. Well, maybe we do have a chat function. Maybe they could put in chat that they want to speak.
Yeah, I'm monitoring that too. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much. Well, let's go ahead with the, we've got through emergency disaster preparedness. That's fabulous. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments at this point? Not hearing anything. So let's go ahead to item 4, which is improved animal housing area and creation of adoption counseling area.
Again, as we continue to look at the current facility that we're in, and Carmen, I do believe we did skip agenda item B and C, which would have been an update on the new shelter. I can just kind of roll this into that conversation.
Goodness.
You know, and I'll come back and actually we'll talk about that separately so that we don't mix apples and oranges. But as we continue to function at our current shelter, we're always looking at how we can continue to enhance the housing and our physical space for the animals, as well as the people who are at our facility. And so we had spent quite a bit of time over the last several months before COVID was even hitting, talking about this. And you know, these projects were in play, and some of them have been completed and some are still in the process of completion. But one of the things that we were able to do was we portalized all of our cat housing units. And what that means is for cats in shelters, space, the amount of space that they actually have to live in is incredibly important for their well-being and their physical health. And the days of having cats in small, I'll call them 2x2 or 3x3 stainless steel kennels is not a good model for them. And so what we've learned to do over the years is take 2 of those kennels, put them together, cut a hole, and so the cat can go back and forth. And that's called portalizing. And so we now have portalized all of our cat housing units on our property. There are no more single kennels for cats. We had, initially, we were housing after surgery, when dogs and cats come out of surgery and they're in post-op, they were being kept together in cages for, a few hours while they're doing recovery. But that's really not an ideal setting for them. And it was one of the first things I noticed when I got there. And so we've been able to separate that out now. We now have a separate recovery area for cats and a separate recovery area for dogs within the vet office. So we're really excited about that. We also, one of the areas that was very difficult is we do some owner-requested euthanasias. We don't do an enormous amount, but we do, and it tends to be for people who have very limited means and their animals are in immediate distress, need to be euthanized. They're requesting that service from us. They can't afford it from a veterinarian, and they come to us and we provide that service for them. We did not have a dedicated place for them to go with their animal and have privacy while that process was happening. So we reconfigured some things and we built a wall and put a door up, and we've now created a dedicated space for that. So again, it's a more humane and more comforting experience for both the animal and the owners. We have purchased, although they have not come in, they've been delayed. They were due to come in at the end of July. We're now being told the end of September. Some new dog kennels. We're moving where we keep our small dogs to a different location and needed new kenneling to do that. So we're waiting for those units to still arrive. We've actually created a turtle pond out in the general center of our courtyard, if you will. One of the things is that the turtles often don't get seen. We tend to have quite a few of them, and they do much better with some fresh air and sunlight. So we've now created a turtle pond where that, again, is better housing for them, and it'll give people and the public a greater opportunity to view them and hopefully adopt them even more quickly. And all of these changes, I have to acknowledge, were funded through our foundation. The foundation has generously supported these activities. So we're very excited about that. And then the last piece to that is we have created what we're calling an adoption counseling center. And that's what all of this is. It's moving dominoes around on the property, where we will now have a dedicated office space where there will be 3 desks within a room for adoption counseling. Hard part is when you come to our facility, if you want to talk about some of the animals with us, we didn't have a place for you to sit down with the adoption counselor. So now there will be a space, desk where they can sit down, look at animal records, pull information up on the computer, and have a space to be able to have those very important conversations, making sure that we're helping to match people with the right animals that they're looking to take home. So those are changes that are in the works. Some of them are completed, some of them are still in process, but it's all about continuing to find better ways to utilize our facility for the animals and the people.
Commissioners have any questions on that last item?
I saw a thumbs up from Steve. Thank you.
Well, I can't see Steve. So Steve Gama or Steve Bennett?
That was Steve Gama.
Okay. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Please, commissioners, chime in. I really appreciate the separate place for when you have to put your animal down. That would have been hard. I've been there a few times. And also the turtles, they're not subject to predators outside, are they?
No, we are actually very fortunate that one of our staff members, she runs our foster care program, is really a turtle expert. And she's helping, she and her husband have been the ones helping to design this turtle pond. We had that same question, like, could birds come down and swoop in? And she has assured us that that is not the case, that we wouldn't be putting any turtles out there that would be so small that they would be subject to that. So.
And just speaking of that, do we have any, we do have wildlife coming into our more urban areas. Do we have any issues with that at either shelter?
We have, and I think part of it is the fencing that we have. You know, our property is fully fenced. That doesn't mean that an animal can't scale a fence, but we haven't had that. And we also at both facilities have fabulous cats, our mousers, who protect our property 24/7. So I truly believe that some of that helps to keep some of the wildlife away. We have a pretty good sized colony of cats
That are outside?
that are feral that live on our property.
Uh-huh, okay. Commissioners, any questions? I can't hear it. I hear nothing, so I assume we don't have it. We do.
I have a quick comment.
Okay, Commissioner Gama, go for it.
Just wanted to let you know that my golden retriever Jackson is very interested in this meeting, and so I gave him a little cameo appearance here. I don't know if you all
I
saw
didn't
it.
see him. I want to see him.
He was very cute.
He walked through. And my dogs are out for their walk, so they're not going to bother us because they will. Let's go back to if we're finished with this, well, let's go ahead and finish the director's report and then go back to the items we skipped. That was on me.
A couple other just quick updates. We have very happy to announce that we have engaged in a relationship with Mercy House. Mercy House is the organization that runs the 2 homeless shelters, one in Oxnard and one in Ventura. We are now providing veterinary services for the residents at Mercy House through a contracted arrangement. We will be providing intake services, meaning intake vaccinations, general wellness exam, flea treatment, I'm sure I'm forgetting, microchipping, other things that we might be doing there, licensing, and we'll also be able to provide spay neuter to any of the animals who are in those facilities. So that's an intake service that we are providing, and we're there on a weekly basis to provide service to any new animals that have come in. And then we're providing on a monthly basis wellness checks for the animals who are there. So we're really happy to be able to support the residents who are in that facility, and very happy that Mercy House is so committed to having people retain their animals. So that's a really
great.
We're
So great. And we do see Commissioner Gama's family member there. He's beautiful.
Hi, Jackson.
Thank you.
Just really quickly, Mercy House, it got a little delayed because of COVID. We had actually had our Board of Supervisors approve this agreement in mid-March or early March, and then COVID hit, but we were able to get that started, I think about mid-June. So we are up and running at both of those facilities.
Can you say, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did I hear a commissioner want to say something?
Chair,
Yes, please, go ahead.
this is Edie. I just have a quick question for Jackie. That's great. I love what you're doing at Mercy House. We have a day homeless center here in Simi Valley called the Samaritan Center. Would it be possible for us to get like a half day, this type of a service, if we were able to fund it here?
We'd love to talk to you about that, absolutely.
Okay.
You want to give me a call, we can talk offline and then connect us with whomever that would be. We'd love to talk about being able to help.
I'll reach out to you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Great, terrific.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? Members of the public? If,
I have a quick question,
go ahead.
Carmen,
yes,
Kevin.
yes, please go ahead.
Just a little update and very brief in Camarillo. We are experiencing somewhat of a decrease in our licensing. We think it's probably due to COVID, but I don't know if the other directors are experiencing that in their city, but we are. And I just thought I'd bring that to everybody's attention here. Hopefully when we get back to where we all hope to be at some point, that'll rectify itself, but it's just kind of an FYI. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are watching that, Commissioner Cody, just so that you're aware. We are tracking that as well as we possibly can. I think we're going to see a bit of an uptick, and I'm very hopeful that with the combination of the vet reporting as well as the enhanced pet hub license tags, that we're going to see that increase.
Okay, and I did want to say I really appreciate the work for homeless folks who need services for the animals. Sometimes when you're homeless, that's your only friend. comfort and protection. So that's terrific. Thank you. Should we go on to rabbit disease and then go back to the other items?
Sure, I'll
finish
just
up your
finish up.
report.
I'll just finish up these two last pieces on my report fairly quickly. This is really more of an FYI. I don't think that it's going to impact many cities directly, but I want you to be aware of what's been going on in the shelter, as well as what's happening here in our state of California. In May, if enough wasn't with COVID-19, we then found out we had a rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus. This virus has been in Europe for many years. It's been in Australia for many years. It recently has come to the United States. We had one of the first cases was reported in the state of California in May, when this really started to jump down. The California Animal Health and Food Safety Lab in San Bernardino then diagnosed a rabbit who had that, and that was the first time here near in Palm Springs. The problem with this disease is that it is almost completely fatal. It affects domestic rabbits as well as wild rabbits. The other problem with this is that there has not been a vaccine available. There is a vaccine that is available through purchase in Europe, which is what we have now done, but there has not been a USDA or FDA approved vaccine, so it's very difficult to get. The notification that we got in May and working with CDFW and the state veterinarian is, in the event that we had a rabbit at our shelter who was positive for this, we would have to depopulate or euthanize all of our rabbits. It's that highly contagious. Rabbits are very stoic animals. They can literally look fine, and 3 hours later, they have passed away. It's just part of the nature of being a fear-based animal. They hide it very well. So we are very concerned about this. Any rabbits that now come into our property, they go through a complete quarantine period. And our foundation, our Bunny Brigade volunteers and our foundation worked extensively with our veterinarian, Dr. Scogerson, to create protocols and to help us purchase this vaccine. We now have received it. We finally got it at the end of July. So we're able to vaccinate our rabbits. Because of this, we also suspended any volunteers coming in to work with rabbits. Most of our Bunny Brigade volunteers have rabbits at home, which is why they like to volunteer with our rabbits. So we stopped all of those people coming in because we didn't want it being transmitted one way or the other. Either they bring it in to our facility from one of their rabbits, or one of our rabbits having it and them transmitting it home to one of their rabbits who would die. It's a highly, highly, highly contagious disease, about 95% death rate compared to, and it's a pretty brutal, the animal literally will bleed out. So I'm happy to report that we do have now the vaccine. We're able to vaccinate rabbits coming in. Along with that, we're now microchipping all rabbits that come through our services. All rabbits go through a quarantine period, and all of our volunteers who are working with them must have their rabbits vaccinated and have gone through quarantine and are signing an attestation form. Again, we're doing everything we can to protect them and our own rabbits. So that's just an FYI. It's happening in the wild. We've had a few cases of rabbit deaths here in Ventura County. We've not had any reported cases of this, although the state vet has been involved, and the necropsies have come back that it is not this RHDV disease, but we're very, very attuned to this. So in case any of you hear about rabbits in the wild and this horrible disease, this is what this is about, and we're managing it to the best of our ability and our property. Again, we're very fortunate. We've not had a single case either.
Questions from the commissioners? I do have one question is, do we know if it's in our county or in Southern California?
Now, the closest case that we now have is a case in Riverside.
It's bad. That's close enough.
It is. And what's very, I mean, obviously this is terribly sad for any rabbit, but the biggest concern for many people from a wild rabbit perspective is we apparently, and I don't remember the names of them, but we apparently have 2 different types of wild jackrabbits here in California that are on the endangered species list. And the concern is if it was to get into those colonies, those rabbits could actually be eradicated. And so it's very, very, very serious disease. It has killed millions of rabbits in Europe and in Australia. And again, I am incredibly grateful to the work of our Bunny Brigade volunteers and our foundation and Dr. Skogerson, who just worked, and I mean tirelessly. We had to find cooperative purchasing agreement. I won't bore you with all the details, but you had to order a certain number, but you couldn't order more than that. It has a very short life shelf expiration date. And so we ordered with, I think, 3 other or 4 other veterinarian hospitals as a cooperative agreement, and then split up the dosage. So we're very happy that we're able to do it. It was an act of true effort to make this happen. I will say from early May to June 19th, it was a daily activity getting these vaccines ordered and brought into us from Europe. So we are one of the shelters that have it. Not all shelters have this vaccine available for their population, but we're very fortunate we do. So that's as much information as we have. The best news is that we now have a vaccine.
That's great.
Yeah. In the middle of COVID, we had hemorrhagic disease.
Do any commissioners have questions?
I have a question, Carmen.
Yes, please.
The public is aware of this, rabbit owners. Now, do they report somewhere if their rabbit does die of this disease?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I heard someone's rabbit did die.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you. They generally work with their own veterinarians, and their veterinarians are then reporting that to the state veterinarian. And we've been notified about a few cases where we've been notified of a couple cases where there were concerns for some wild rabbits. And then we've been notified, I think it's 1 or 2 cases for domestic rabbits that a veterinarian was working with. And then once we're notified, we work and stay in contact with them and the state veterinarian to get that final report.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other commissioners have questions? How about any member of the public?
This is Randy. Sharon, who was in the waiting room earlier, she emailed me. She's having some internet issues. She wanted to know if we could read off her questions here. Is that all right?
Can read off the questions. Of course, we can't. Well, let's see what they are. Okay.
The first one is about the new shelter. She said, since so effectively limiting entry to the shelter because of COVID, is the planned size of the new facility really necessary?
Now we're going to get to that report ahead. We haven't had the report yet, so
okay,
maybe it'll be answered in the report.
Okay. The second question she has is, the impact on rescues has been significant as animals are diverted from VCAS. So can financial support be considered, assuming the limited intake will continue? I realize that limited intake is one of the best practices for shelters.
Okay, we'll see if we can get an answer later. Thank you. All right, any other questions from members of the public? Commissioners? Last call on the director's report.
If I can just make my last comment very
Sure.
quickly, because this is one last, what I'm super excited about is our new website. We have been working diligently. I say we, it's really Randy. It's Randy and our IT team who have been working tirelessly on this. It looks fantastic. We're hoping to have it launched. Randy, you can chime in. My understanding is hopefully by early October. But it's a completely redesigned new website that will be much more user-friendly and have the ability to provide much cleaner information and accessibility for folks. So we will keep everyone informed. Randy, is that correct? Are we still looking for like an October launch for that?
Yes, mid-October, we're looking to launch a little bit earlier for our staff so they can get a chance to look at it, work out the bugs, and you know, it's going to be great. Our current website gets about 1,000 unique visitors every day. It is a high traffic website, so I think an updated website will add an incredible amount of value to the programs and services we provide.
Okay,
And
questions about that?
Once we get close to that, we will keep everyone informed and send you the links for the new website. So,
Thank you.
super excited.
Questions from the commissioners on the website?
Sounds great.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Any members of the public wish to comment on the website issue? Okay, so let's move on to the items that I unfortunately skipped over, which would be 8B, which is receive update on new animal services shelter.
Okay, I guess I'm talking again. Here I go.
Yes, you're talking again. Thank you.
The update is that there's not much of an update, to be very honest at this moment. We were literally getting ready the week when COVID hit. We were literally working with our project manager, who's been assigned to us from the county, to put out an RFQ for architects to start working with us for a plan and design. And I mean, literally that week is when COVID hit and everything kind of came to a screeching halt. I am waiting at this moment. We will have an additional conversation, further conversation with the CEO's office about this. It was actually this RFQ was going to be funded through the CEO's office, not out of our budget. They were generously helping to support this. And with the budget changes that have happened the last several months, as you all know, we did not move forward with a new budget in July 1, and we'll be moving forward with our budget hopefully by mid-September. After the budget issues are finalized here in the county, I will then have the conversation with the CEO's office and see if we could not reinvigorate that RFQ process. I know that everyone on the county side is still very committed to wanting to see a new shelter happen for us, but it did get waylaid because of COVID. So at this moment, we're still in the same position as we were the last time we met.
Could you respond to the question that was posed by a member of the public about seeming with less intake, do we really need a new shelter? That was the question.
Sure, I think that they're two separate issues. You know, right now we see less animals coming in, and how much of that is directly related to COVID and the activities that are going on in our world are, I think, are yet to be seen. And some of this is we're gonna learn more as we as a society continue to move forward. But regardless, in all honesty, the number of animals, we're not going to drop from, you know, we average 11,000, 12,000 animals a year. We're not going to drop to 3,000. I mean, there may be a reduction in intake, but it's not going to be so drastic that we're not going to have animals that we need to care for. The second component to that is that regardless of the number of animals, the facility that we have is completely inadequate. Not only by size, but by function and usability. It's an old building. It was built in 1985. The kennels are in really pretty poor shape. The county, our facilities team has done an amazing job all these years helping us maintain this facility and keep it running, but it is not designed to provide the kinds of services that we're providing today. It's also not a facility that's designed for life-saving activities. We do an amazing job within this facility, but it's not designed for that. Again, remember, it was built back in 85, and up until 2014, it was a holding facility, and that's what its primary purpose was. And that's very different than the services we provide today. So I really think that they're separate issues. I think the question merits, you know, a response that we will be watching our intake, and you know, we won't be building a facility tomorrow. We're not going to ground tomorrow. So that will be a big part of the conversation with the architects is what is the capacity needs. And then to just add one more layer to that, we have been working with the University of California, Davis Correct Shelter Medicine Program. We'd hired them as consultants to help us with those capacity questions. And they've already given us some recommendations for capacity size. We may need to reevaluate that if our intakes truly do stay at a more reduced level. I don't think that's going to truly happen, and that's not what we're seeing nationwide. But again, I think the need for a shelter is different than the size of the shelter, and we will adjust the size of the shelter based on capacity needs.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions about that?
This is Steve Bennett,
Yes.
Carmen.
Yes,
and-
please go for it.
I just wanted to use this moment to sort of put in historical perspective where we are. I mean, I can remember when I was growing up, which is a long time ago, you know, if a family had a $20 vet bill, the animal didn't go get that $20
Right.
vet shot. And then I can remember 25 or 30 years ago, city council members would say, we don't need dog parks. And we had all kinds of resistance to dog parks, and it was going to increase liability of cities. But our society has just changed so dramatically in terms of animals and the role that they play in our lives, that we have to invest to sort of stay current with where our public is in terms of what they expect and for us in terms of how we treat animals. And so to take this old facility and keep trying to patch it together will ultimately cost us all more money because we'll have more problems, we'll have more disease spread and more stress on our employees and everything else. So there just are times when you have to bite the bullet. And I think the cities are fortunate that the county is willing to step up and help so much with this. So I would need to see long-term real changes before I would begin to think that we should pull the plug on any kind of modernization of our facilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other commissioners? I want to invite Commissioner Gama.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make the point that as with environmental stewardship, taking care of our animals, it's a local issue, and all of us should try to get people to involve their activities and their donations locally. It always concerns me when I see the very effective commercials on TV and it's drawing money out of our county to some
Absolutely,
national
right.
organization. So, you know, all of us need to keep it local.
Keep it local.
Keep it local, and we'll make a bigger difference, and we'll take care of our animal environment as well as our regular environment. Thank you.
This is
I
Steve.
totally
Steve,
agree with that. Commissioner Bennett.
I really agree with Commissioner Gama. I think that's a great point, and we do have to take care of our situation here. Nice point, Steve. Thanks.
I'll invite other commissioners to speak on that. I totally agree. I see those commercials, I turn them off because I know that it's not coming to what we need locally. So we need to continue talking about that. We've talked about doing something that would highlight what our local needs, but we're gonna go there at some point. Let's see. Okay, so do we have any members of the public wish to comment on this?
There is nobody in the.
Anybody in the waiting room?
There are. I think they're just kind of sitting. I think they're watching on YouTube. We're streaming this live on YouTube.
Okay.
There are no
great.
questions.
I'd like to actually we're going to go back to, let's see. We're going to go back to item C, New Animal Service Foundation of Ventura County Board Member. Director Rose, going for coffee again.
Yeah, we just wanted to keep everyone informed that we are very happy to announce that we have a new board member on our animal foundation. Jeannie Tuttle has joined that board. Jeannie is a local business owner who has a dog training business, but more importantly than that, Jeannie has been a long-term volunteer for the shelter and has been very committed to helping our animals. She comes in and donates her time to do specialized work with our dogs. And she was very interested in joining. We're thrilled that she's going to be a new member of our board. So it's really just an update to keep you all informed. We now have 6 members on our board.
That's great. Comments from the commissioners? Members of the public? Hearing none, let's go on to commissioner comments. Anyone?
Yeah.
Who is that? Who said yeah? Commissioner comments, anyone? I
Oh,
see you mostly, so you could raise your hand. You're on camera.
will
That
there-
was Commissioner Kildee.
Yes.
No, I just want to, I think we should all be in on a new facility. And I understand this year that it's been a lot of challenges, of course, but I think really important to get that message out as soon as we can, the need for a new facility as well. I know anytime you build something of this magnitude, it costs a lot of money, but there needs to be a lot of planning on this. But I do believe in the county, if we can convince enough people the need for this, that we may be able to defer some of the costs somehow. So with a collaborative effort. So those are my comments. I appreciate you,
Thank you.
hearing
Thank
me on
you.
this. Thank you.
Other comments? Commissioners?
Oh, I also
Ms.
want to,
Francina?
I want to express my support for what Steve Bennett said about the facility. I think the public will support it. I think people's attitude toward animals is continuing to evolve, our understanding how intelligent they are and how loyal and all of that. I just wanted to know, will there be follow-up with the concerns that expressed by Susan Santa Maria was her name? What happens now with her comments? What kind of follow-up will there be? Her concern that dogs are being euthanized that may have potentially could have been given another chance and rehabilitated, and the concern about the Simi Valley shelter. You know, the height that she, I can't remember her exact words, but that high stress dogs should be moved. And can we discuss that, or does that have to be on the agenda next time, or what happens?
Can I recommend that our director give us a report, which could be before our next meeting about these issues, but invite you to make some brief comments, because it was not agendized. So we have to, be concerned about the Brown Act.
Yeah.
So I'd ask that we get a report on that in a short period of time, so we're informed. Director Rose, just brief comment.
I'm happy to do that. To briefly respond to the comments regarding the euthanasia. I think to be fair, we take an enormous amount of time and energy looking at dogs that we have had incidents with. We are equally committed to the well-being of the animals as well as the public safety. And we have talked about this previously. The public comment made reference to some kind of policy that there needed to be an attack on people 3 times. I am not aware. We do not have a policy that speaks to that at all. We look at each individual situation as an individual case, and what is the severity of the incident? What is the history with this dog? What is the predictability of continued behavior? What are the triggers? What are the things that we could counsel someone about in regards to aggressive behavior by a dog? And after we have looked at all of those components, we make a decision whether we believe an animal is safe to place back into the community. That is, I believe, our responsibility to each one of the cities and to the citizens of this community. I stand by the position that we're running a 94, 95, 96, depending on the month that you're looking at, live release rate. We are not summarily euthanizing dogs. We are euthanizing dogs that we believe would be a significant danger to the community. And the community includes other animals. It does not just include people. There's really nothing more heartbreaking than to have an individual lose their personal pet due to a severe dog bite or dog aggression incident, or their cat. So we look at the overall aggression of an animal, coupled with, and I think these are the two main points for folks to understand, coupled with what is our ability to help counsel someone and how they could manage that behavior in the future. Best example I can give is we talk about something called resource guarding. Resource guarding may be, this is a good example, a dog is eating their food, and if you put your hand by their bowl, they may go and bite you at the bowl. And that's the only time they show aggression. Well, that's a resource guarding behavior that can be easily managed in a home if somebody's willing to do it. Don't put your hand by the bowl is one answer. Two is feed the dog in a separate room and let them eat privately. Again, there are all kinds of ways to manage that behavior. On the other hand, if you have a dog who is aggressive in unpredictable ways, it's very difficult to help an adopter understand how they protect themselves, how they protect their family, how they protect their neighborhood, how they protect anyone walking into their home or any animal that may come across that animal's path if it's an animal aggression issue. So we look at what is the likelihood that this behavior could be managed in a home. Those are the kinds of decisions that we make. So again, there is no policy about 3-time attack. And just one other piece going to the Simi Valley piece is Simi Valley Shelter, when it's open, is not designed to be a facility for the more difficult dogs. In truth of the matter is we have less staff there and less resources at Simi Valley. The dogs who are more challenging, we will retain at Camarillo as long as we're continuing to work with them, because that's where we have the greatest opportunity to provide interventions for them. Again, these are tough conversations, and we spend hours every week talking about these. But I stand by the fact that our euthanasia rates are incredibly low, and there are a certain percentage of animals that will come to us that we will deem that are just too dangerous to be placed in the community.
Director Rose, I want to keep your comments brief because we didn't agendize this, but I think that asking for a more formal report to respond to some of the issues would be the best practice here.
Sure.
Thank you. So this is the time for commissioner comments. We've had a couple, but please chime in, anyone who'd like to say anything about what's going on with you in relation to this commission. I don't see anybody who wants to comment at this point. I'll just say for me, one of the things I want to say is I think the county in all of this, and I see the decision to move forward with the Mercy Housing services for the homeless individuals and their animals as an example of the county really being very generous at this difficult time financially. And the county has put out a lot of money for businesses, for families, for rent assistance, for business assistance. And of course, with the pandemic and all of the resources that need to go to trying to keep our community safe, there's a huge strain on the budget. And sometimes members of our public, whether it's city issues or county issues or even state issues, there's just not a real understanding of what the budget and where it comes from and what are the possibilities of spending it. So I'd like to always remind people that there isn't enough money for everything we want to do. And when we go to build a new shelter, I'm hoping that we get a lot of private money and certainly contributions from individuals and corporations, because really the need is huge. And the other issue I have is what the toll is on our staff of taking care of the animals during this crisis and before. It's, there's a lot of emotion involved and there's burnout issues with volunteers. So we have to really be kind to each other, especially at this time when we're going through something very awful and difficult. And So I always just want to, let's be nice to each other. We're all stressed out to a certain extent. So any other comments from the directors? I would like to invite other members, our animal safety officers who are online, if they have anything they'd like to comment on. I know this is director's report, but you're sitting there watching, you have information, you have opinions. If we could get, anybody want to make any comment? Well, yes.
This is Phil Rarick with Animal Services.
Yes.
I did just want to elaborate on one piece. And I think the one piece when we've touched about our capacity and staff constraints, we did touch on some of those aspects. We touched on the fact that we have redeployed disaster service workers. We have staff who have childcare issues which have impacted them, exposures and quarantines. I think the other thing that we that may not be visibly apparent is that the work itself has been more cumbersome based off of this. Adoption counseling virtually and the phone calls and the extra steps that staff have had to take just to go through the normal course of a day. It's much more cumbersome. And so that comes into our ability to run Simi Valley right now, we look at this very carefully with all of our services. And so I did just want to expand upon that it's not business as usual in terms of the challenges to operate some of these basic functions due to the impacts of COVID. So I thought that was a worthy note.
Very much. Thank you very much. Anything else from anyone?
Oh, I just appreciate what everyone is doing for the animals. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Okay, I don't see any other business. So at this point, we are going to adjourn until November 12th. Seems like a long ways away, but it'll be right on top of us. So stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.